They're single in waiting series. The founder of Pearls and Stones Tribe. It's a community for singles in their waiting season, and the goal is for us is to walk towards mission one, which is oneness with our identity, navigating the waiting season with grit, and expressing every gift that God has given, right, to singles. And this is my gift to singles, right? If you haven't listened to the previous episodes, please do. I also had a couple of teachings on the complexities of contemporary relationships, and I talked about the Esther curriculum. So our Dear Single in Waiting series is back, and this is more like the first installment. So today we're talking about I'm reading from the book of Numbers, Numbers chapter 21. This is 4 to 9, and this is the story of the brown snake, if you're familiar with this. So I'll quickly read through from verses 4 to 9. They traveled from Mount Hor along the route to the Red Sea to go around Edom, but the people grew impatient on the way. They spoke against God and against Moses and said, "Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? There is no bread, there is no water, and we detest this miserable food." Then the Lord sent venomous snakes among them. They bit the people, and many Israelites died. The people came to Moses and said, "We sinned when we spoke against the Lord and against you. Pray that the Lord will take the snakes away from us." So Moses prayed for the people. The Lord said to Moses, "Make a snake and put it up on a pole. Anyone who is beaten can look at it and live." So Moses made a bronze snake and put it up on a pole. Then when anyone was beaten by a snake and looked at the bronze snake, they lived. And this is a short commentary from it. Jesus chose this incident as one of the examples from the Old Testament history that illustrates his own person and the redemptive work of salvation. Through the serpent and through Jesus, God provided a way of escape that required only faith from the people. In typical style, the Israelites corrupted the meaning by keeping the bronze serpent as an idol to worship. Centuries later, King Hezekiah destroyed this image, and that account can be found in 2 Kings chapter 18, verse 4. A couple of things that I want to draw quickly from this is that the waiting season can be a tiring and exhausting season. Singles can get caught up in that wait and get frustrated, right? But what do you do? The Israelites were not meant to spend 40 years in the wilderness. They had a purpose in crying out to God as they were going through the torture from the Egyptians, and God raised Moses, and he decided that he was going to lead them into the promised land. So they didn't even know what God had in store for them. But God, in his mercy, in his infinite mercy as a father, a loving father, decided that he was going to take them into the promised land. But they left Egypt, but Egypt did not leave them. They left Egypt, but Egypt did not leave them. And they kept going back to the past. Each time they faced challenges, they'll say to Moses, "Why did you not just leave us in Egypt? Why did you not just leave us in Egypt to continue to enjoy the garlic and the cucumbers?" Can you imagine? They forgot everything that they had gone through, the torture that the Egyptians put them through. They forgot all of that and wanted to go back. Even though God had already promised that he was going to take them into the promised land, he had decided that he was going to lead them into a land flowing with milk and honey. And the waiting season can be can be very difficult for singles, and that's why it's good to surround yourself with a community, a like-minded singles, a community where you can encourage yourselves in the Lord, a community where you share your struggles and you're able to hold each other's hands and pray it through. Pearls and Gemstones is a community for singles who are navigating the waiting season. The link will be dropped in the description so you can join if you're a single in waiting, right? And so the first point I want to share here is People, singles can grow impatient when they're in the waiting season. How do you deal with that? It's by focusing on the right things. You switch and change your perspective. Don't focus on the waiting season. Focus on what God is doing with you through that season. And if you have been following the series, that I released 30 questions to ask before you say I do. There are a lot of questions that you must answer, even with your intended, or even before you meet the person you want to settle with. There are a lot of questions you must answer around boundaries, the kind of boundaries you have created as around yourself, your spiritual background, how committed you are to God, your likes and dislikes, understanding who you are, understanding your wiring, understanding that you need to set certain boundaries for yourself and communicate that effectively. Your apology language, the way you communicate, your medical history, your non-negotiables. These are things you need to deal with while you're in the waiting season. Really understanding who you are from the core, so that when if the person comes, who wants to and that's what happens when you are dating. The real facts are on the table and you're discussing them. Issues around money, finances, your purposes, your plans for the future, your legacy, and all of that, to see if it aligns. Are you really compatible with this person? So don't get impatient through the waiting season. That temptation will come, yes, but don't give in to that temptation. Go back to God and ask Him, what work is He trying to do in your life in this season, and ask Him for illumination, for light to shine the spotlight on the gaps that exist in your current season. Okay, and then the next is that you have to be careful about the things you say in the waiting season. Recall that because they constantly and continue to complain before God, God said that as they have said in my ears, so shall I do. And if you recall, that generation that complained, especially after Joshua and Caleb had visited the promised land, that generation that complained and were wailing and weeping, that why did God bring them into the wilderness to destroy them, because of the complaints about the giants that they saw when they visited, when they went to spy the land that God had promised. Remember that God said, as they had said in His ears, so shall He do. And that entire generation was wiped out. And the Bible records that it was only Joshua and Caleb who didn't complain, that saw that we were taking, that God took into the promised land. So you have to understand that your words are powerful in the spirit realm. Your words are like missiles. Once they have been shot out, it's effected in that sense, because God said, so shall I do. So even when you say certain things, God Himself cannot override that, because it's the law. God will not go back on His word. So your words are powerful. You have to be careful what you say while in the waiting season. Your words are powerful. So cut away from murmuring and complaining. Ask God to do that deep work in you, and that's where you are taking root. Okay, the next is that you shouldn't murmur and complain. Like I said, offer up praises and thanksgiving unto God for that season that you are in, and ask Him to shine the spotlight so that you see the work that He is doing. You see and understand what He's trying to do, keeping you, preparing you for that season of enthronement. And I also wrote a book, Journey to Enthronement, for singles in their waiting season, sharing biblical examples of people that had to wait on God for certain miracles and manifestations, and things that you ought not to do while in your waiting season, just to strengthen you and empower you. And the fourth, yes, is to ask God. For snakes came out and started biting, stinging, biting the Israelites, and He said that it was only those who looked up to the bronze snake that were saved. It was only those who looked up to the bronze snake that were saved, because Moses had gone to God to ask that what's the solution, pleading on their behalf as usual. And God told him to erect a bronze snake. And anyone who has been bitten by the snake and looks up at the bronze snake is the one who will be saved. So you have to look up unto God, the author and finisher of your faith. This is you going back to God and asking Him to turn around the situation, so that that waiting season will be the best season of your life yet. Literally, do you understand? You are asking God to help you through that waiting season, to connect to the right people, to discover who you are, to use that season of singlehood as a as a mission field. Yes, as a mission field, asking him to show you the the path that he has chosen for you, and you begin to do God's work, right? You begin to walk in the vineyard as a kingdom ambassador and a kingdom representative. So your season, your next season, the last point that I want to raise is that your next season will be unlocked when you steward your current season appropriately. Your next season will be unlocked when you steward your season appropriately. That was what happened with, stories of people who waited. That was what happened with Anna when she had Samuel. That was what happened with Abraham when he had Isaac. Isaac also had to wait. Isaac and Rebecca had to wait. You understand the succession and she conceived and had Jacob and Esau. And there was a season where Elijah also had to wait on God and went through intercessory prayer for rain to fall in Israel. And it's on and on and on. We also know about the intercessor who stayed in the temple constantly praying about the coming of the Messiah. And we know about Job, who prayed and interceded for his friends even while he was going through that period of trial and temptation. Job also prayed for his friends. So step into that space of intercession, praying for yourself, praying about your future, praying about your marriage, praying about your partner. You don't wait until your partner comes before you start praying for him. You pray these things through. Pray about your marriage, pray about your partner, pray about your relationship with each other, pray about your family, your children. Pray and ask God to really guide you and surround you with people who will strengthen your faith in this waiting route in this season. That's what I wanted to quickly share with you. And I think I've literally exhausted everything that I wanted to share today. So use the waiting season as a springboard, if I can use that. Use the waiting, let the waiting season be a season where you live to remember. You literally saying to yourself that this was a season where I had remarkable I had encounters with God. I deepened my faith, my spirituality grew roots. I was able to, put people together, help them, encourage them through their own waiting season, through their trying season. And God Himself would ensure that you don't stay longer than the time He has allotted for you in that waiting season. I hope this has helped you. If you're a single in waiting, join the Pearls and Gemstones tribe. It's a community for singles in waiting. Get my book as well, or resources, Journey to Enthronement for singles in their waiting season. I have the waiting season guide. I have a singles bundle for you to prepare for marriage. Literally, I have 30 questions you must answer before you say I do, and elegant women confessions that you can take, right? Literally, just to strengthen your faith in this waiting season. Thank you all for joining me. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments quickly. Thank you for joining me, Riley. And yes, Riley, thank you for joining me today. Do you have any questions up today? This is the Dear Single in Waiting series. So wrapping up quickly, a quick recap. I talked about um, the waiting season, making singles go impatient. I talked about being careful about the say in the waiting season. I talked about not murmuring and complaining, and I talked about rebuilding, going back to God and asking Him to show you what you ought to do in that season, and then asking Him, standing in the gap for others in your waiting season. I don't see any questions today. Thank you for joining me. Until the next episode or installment of the Dare Single in Waiting series, do enjoy the rest of the day.